Hey, I'm golf broadcaster Matt Adams. The updated and expanded second edition of my book, The Golf Round I'll Never Forget, Golf's Biggest Stars Recall Their Finest Moments, is now available. Readers can expect to march with Arnie's Army at the 1960 U.S. Open, relive Jack Nicklaus's remarkable 1986 Masters win, and be amazed by the Tiger Slam. The Golf Round I'll Never Forget, Golf's Biggest Stars Recall Their Finest Moments. Pick it up where fine books are sold, including BarnesandNoble.com and Amazon.com.
This day in sports history. It's June 10th, and on this day in 1950, Ben Hogan hit the most famous one-iron shot in golf history. It was the final round of the U.S. Open being played that year at Merion Golf Club in Pennsylvania. And there is so much about this one moment in time that is amazing when you really think about it. But before we dig down into some of the specifics, if you're a golfer of any ability, or a golf fan who just likes to watch occasionally on television, then you have undoubtedly seen the photo of Hogan's one-iron shot, photographed by Life magazine's Hy Peskin. I've got a copy of it hanging in my house, but it hangs in most golf clubhouses, sports bars, really any place that has a hint of a golf theme. That picture is probably going to be there. So what did Peskin capture in that famous frame? And as a quick side note, Peskin said he followed Hogan around the entire day, and that was the only photo he took that day. Well, first off, Hogan was in position to win the tournament, but after missing a short par putt on 15 and then bogeying the par 3 17th, he was back in a tie for the lead. He came to the long 458-yard closing hole at Merion, needing a par to get into a playoff. Now, second, this is his 36th hole of the day. At this point, the final rounds of the U.S. Open were played on Saturday and required a grueling 36-hole test. Now, if you remember back to the February 2nd edition of this dish, you will remember Hogan's car crash with a bus that he and his wife Valerie were in on February 2nd, 1949. That wreck nearly killed him, and in fact, if he hadn't lunged to his right to protect his wife Val from the impact, he would have certainly died. This U.S. Open was his first tournament since that near-fatal accident 15 months earlier. He had trouble walking, was in near constant pain, and his playing partner that day, Kerry Middlecoff, actually helped him out by marking his ball on the green because he struggled to bend down. And yet here he was, not only in contention, but at the top of the leaderboard. And next, he's hitting a one-iron. It is not an easy club to hit. It's nearly impossible, as a matter of fact. Hogan's one-iron was only lofted 17 degrees, and for the average human, even the above-average golfer, hitting a one-iron with any sort of precision requires a lot of practice, and even then, it can still be a crapshoot. Lee Trevino once joked that the safest place on a golf course during a lightning storm is in the middle of the fairway with a one-iron in your hand, because even God can't hit a one-iron. In Peskin's photograph, Hogan's ball has been struck and can be seen on its low trajectory heading for the green. Hogan is balanced in his follow-through, watching the ball in flight. The fairway is bordered by thousands of fans wondering where that ball is going to land. A few moments later, Hogan's ball lands safely on the green, 40 feet from the cup. He two-putts for par to join the 18-hole playoff with Lloyd Mangrum and George Fazio that would be played the following day. Hogan beat both of those guys by 4 shots to win the 1950 U.S. Open. It was a story so miraculous that it was turned into a movie called Follow the Sun, starring Glenn Ford and Ann Baxter, that would debut the following year. Funny thing, though, Hogan's one-iron was actually stolen shortly after and did not reappear until 1983 when an older gentleman carrying a ratty bag of clubs showed up at TPC Sawgrass during the Players' Championship and sold the whole bag of what he said was 8 old irons and 4 woods to a club dealer. There were actually 9 irons in the bag. That extra club was a one-iron with a telltale mark of a precise ball striker in that bag. When it was presented to Hogan to authenticate it, he looked it over very carefully before finally saying with a smile, "It's good to have my old friend back." On this day in 1977, it was golfer Al Geiberger posting the first 59 in PGA Tour history. It was the second round of the Danny Thomas Memphis Classic, and this wasn't some short par 70 golf course. This was a 7,200-yard par 72. Geiberger made 11 birdies, an eagle, and no bogeys. He did have a bit of a knee knocker to secure the record round on his 18th hole, though. Standing over his 10-foot putt for 59, he said to himself, "Whatever you do, do not leave it short. You may never get this chance again." He did not leave it short. He buried it. He rolled it in for the first ever sub-60 round on the PGA Tour. Interestingly enough, though, the ball he was playing with that day was a Hogan branded ball, and like Hogan's 1-iron, it also went missing. It was on display at the World Golf Hall of Fame along with his scorecard when it went missing. So did Geiberger win the tournament? He did, but it was close. He didn't break 70 either Saturday or Sunday, losing his 6-shot advantage he built up on Friday to Gary Player. But after rolling in a 30-foot birdie putt on the 14th on Sunday, he regained the lead and won the tournament. Geiberger's record 59 was broken in 2016 when Jim Furyk shot a 58 at the Travelers. In 1944, Joe Nuxhall made his major league debut with the Cincinnati Reds. He came on in relief in a game the Reds were losing 13-0. He pitched 2/3 of an inning and became the youngest player in Major League Baseball history at the age of 15 years, 10 months, 11 days. He gave up 5 walks, a couple of hits, and 5 runs in his debut. He spent the rest of the year in the minor leagues and would not make a return to the majors for another 8 years. Nuxhall's debut came during World War II when there was a player shortage. If you remember back to the February 18th edition of this dish, I talked about when he signed with the Reds that Cincy scouts were actually looking at his dad and they tried to sign him, but work and family took priority. So, instead, they signed Joe. And in 1981, Tony Gwynn was drafted by 2 different teams in 2 different leagues in 2 different sports on the same day. First, the San Diego Padres selected Gwynn in the 7th round of the Major League Baseball draft. Later, the San Diego Clippers selected Gwynn in the 10th round of the NBA draft. Gwynn obviously chose to play baseball, but he could have played in the NBA with the numbers that he sported at San Diego State. In fact, he was recruited by the Aztecs to play basketball, and then he joined the baseball team once he got to campus. Gwynn's name is still etched in the record books for the most assists in a game, season, and career at San Diego State. For Tony, playing baseball was the practical choice. He didn't see himself playing more than a year or 2 in the NBA. Of course, his baseball career spanned 20 years, collecting 3,141 hits along the way, good for 21st on the all-time list. Sadly, Gwynn passed away in 2014 at the age of 54. Time now for today's non-sports Did You Know? Feeling lucky? Well, know that you are about 30 times more likely to be killed by a swarm of bees than you are to win a mega jackpot lottery. That's all for now. I'll have more tomorrow on This Day in Sports History. This has been an original Thrive Suite production.
Hey there, sports history fan. This is Arnie Chapman, a.k.a. the Football History Dude, and I hope that you enjoyed this recent episode presented by the Sports History Network and were able to learn some good old-fashioned sports history knowledge nuggets. I started the Sports History Network back in 2020 with the mission to help podcasters find a community of like-minded sports history nerds, as well as helping aspiring podcasters to start their own shows. We have a little bit over 30 shows on the network right now covering all sorts of sports history, but as far as I'm concerned, we're just at the toothpick in the ocean moment, that can't even figure it out because there's so much more coming. We wanted to create the ultimate headquarters for sports yesteryear, starting with Podcast Network and our website, but we're going to continue to move into other mediums as well. And here's the cool part, because we want you to be part of our team. So if you're interested in starting your own podcast, or maybe being a guest on one of our shows, or who knows, maybe even writing an article for us over on the website. Seriously, all you gotta do is reach out to us on the contact page over at sportshistorynetwork.com. You can be as technologically savvy as a Neanderthal tapping on a stone trying to figure out this whole hieroglyphics thing back in the day. Again, it doesn't matter, because even if you don't understand the whole podcast space, we have a production team that can pretty much help you out with doing everything. All you gotta do, head over to sportshistorynetwork.com, head to the contact page, fill it out. That message goes right to me, and I'll reach out to you as soon as I can. But for now, dude, I'm through if you're through.